But we begin on this 30th of January with a tragic end to the search for AirAsia Flight 8501 as crews recover bodies and debris not far from the plane's last known location. Welcome to the second hour of Happening Now. I'm John Scott.
And I'm Marthel Neville in for Jenna Lee. The bodies of 40 victims found so far along what appears to be the parts of the aircraft, including an emergency escape door and a shadow spotted beneath the shallow water that could be the fuselage of the downed jet.
162 people were on board the AirAsia flight from Indonesia to Singapore when it went down on Sunday. For more on this, I'm joined by Oliver McGee, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Transportation for Technology Policy and an aerospace engineer. If, in fact, they do have a sighting on the debris of the main fuselage of the aircraft, it won't be long before they bring up those black boxes, correct?
Absolutely, John. What we see in this particular story is Air France 447 and AirAsia 8501 are really deja vu stories. If we have 30 days in the window right now to be able to locate that black box and the pings that will come from it. And if we get outside that 30-day window, John, we are going to look for a little bit of a longer search for that black box. We saw that in Air France 447. That took up to 2 years. Deep sea searches for black boxes is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. But we're very fortunate in this particular case that we have shallow waters, about 100 or so, 100 to 400 feet deep. So the chances are pretty high here.
And the fact that they have been able to find surface debris gives them a much better idea where the actual black boxes are going to be located subsea. Air France, they had surface debris within a couple of days, but it still took them 2 years to find those black boxes.
Absolutely, John. Well said. I have a map on an article I wrote on LinkedIn.com that really shows that we have disappearances of aircraft since 1948, about 80 of them, and we've only found 4. So that includes Air France 447 and Asiana 8501. So that is, this is not an easy task. We got a lot of work cut out for us right now.
All right, so what is job one for the investigators, aside from looking at the black boxes? I mean, will the black boxes give them the answer in and of themselves?
Yes, John. We saw that in Air France 447. Once we got into that data and started looking at what was happening to the engine performances and aircraft performance, but also what's going on in what I like to call a hot cockpit conversation. Essentially what we're looking at is 90% of all aircraft crashes are human factors related, as FAA has shown in years of research. And that's what we're seeing in this particular region, in Southeast Asia region. This is expected to be 5 to 10 years of rapid growth in air travel. And so we want to get our handle on exactly how human factors errors affect some of these performances of these aircraft performances in these airlines. But I would like to say that there are competent pilots in all of the world's aircraft, 240 airlines that we have. And the International Air Transport Association is actually putting down some recommendations for such performances in the cockpit, but also for global tracking of aircraft, so that we can find these locations of wreckages much, much quicker in the future.
Yeah, it's my understanding that one of the things Airbus has done in designing its cockpits and its flight information systems is to try to make it impossible for humans to foul up by building so much automation into these cockpits, but that may come as sort of a double-edged sword.
Well, well said, John. An Airbus aircraft and a Boeing aircraft literally fly by themselves. We call it fly-by-wire. And that's the importance of the engineering marvels of these systems. But sometimes when you're getting into certain situations where human judgment has to come into play, particularly in a dark cell storm that 8501 was facing, and you were trying to move from 32,000 feet to 38,000 feet to essentially avoid the aircraft. Again, what they're trying to do is aviate, navigate, but not necessarily communicate. They're trying to save the aircraft. So oftentimes you go in and make choices in the cockpit, and they're very innocent. They're very, very well driven by performance, but sometimes they can lead to human factor errors, and 90% of those crashes are usually associated with that.
There are reports that the plane ascended about 4,000 feet and then plunged or descended relatively rapidly about 10,000 feet. Do you buy the accuracy of those radar returns, or is this another case, as we learned with Malaysia Flight 370, that those returns might not necessarily reflect the accuracy of what took place?
Until we have the black boxes, John, everything is inaccurate. When we get those black boxes, as we saw in Air France 447, the conversations, the data that talks about the engine performance, the aircraft performance, that usually clears up things very, very quickly. In Air France 447, we had to wait 2 years to do that. We hope in 8501 that we won't have to wait as long, but those black box conversations are very important.
Yeah.
And again, we need to start thinking about putting a black box in the cloud, because then we could be knowing what those conversations are right now in this particular spot that we're doing right now. But we have to wait to get the black box in the bottom of the deep seas.
But
and we'll get to that technology soon.
At least the families aren't left in another Malaysia 370 situation where they are still wondering what happened.
Condolences goes out to all of the families and the loved ones that are faced by this right now.
Without question. Oliver McGee,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you, John.